Like Dr. Harley Rothbart in this story, I learned a lot about faith from my father. My father was in many ways typical of that generation that survived the Depression, saved the world from communism, fascism, and totalitarianism, and then returned home to raise families and rebuild America and the world. He was a high school graduate whose friends all had graduate degrees, and that made him feel a little inferior. He worked like a dog all his life, selling shoes. I never once heard him complain. Max Rothbart was an Auschwitz survivor with number 142178 tattooed on his arm. He came to America after liberation and raised a family working like a dog as a fruit seller in Denver. In May of 1979, a dream came true when he attended his son's graduation from medical school. After the ceremony, the new doctor made his way through the crowd to his parents. It was an emotional ceremony, but he was not prepared for what happened next. Here is how Harley described that moment. After hugs from my brother and mom, I moved on to Dad. What happened at that moment, I will never forget. Crying loudly, Dad fell to his knees in what can only be described as a total emotional breakdown. He shook and shivered and sobbed. People all around turned to stare, but he didn't notice or he didn't care. The usual self-consciousness was gone. As I dropped to my knees to face him, he held me like never before. Everyone backed away to give us space. A few applauded. Strangers took pictures. Dad and I stayed on our knees, crying and hugging for a long time until we both had the strength to stand up. Dr. Rothbart later realized that breakdown represented the completion of his liberation from Auschwitz 40 years earlier. I am deeply touched by this story because the faith it represents reminds me a lot about my father's faith, his life and his dreams for his children, even though his story does not include Auschwitz. Their generation of men may have been sparing in their words and stoic in their emotions, but whether with few words or just by example, they taught their children a strong faith. Don't you ever give up, they taught us. Have faith in yourself. Have faith in God, and ultimately in the goodness of life. Never lose hope, and always be grateful. A love of life and perseverance when life is challenging. Hope and gratitude. That's the kind of faith I learned from people like Max Rothbart and my father. Tenacity and love of life go together, and belief in life's goodness naturally brings with it hope. Elie Wiesel, something of an expert on the subject, said Jews are commanded to be hopeful and forbidden to despair. We Jews introduced the hope model into human thinking. Abraham was the first to burst through the confines of pagan thinking and imagine the possibility of endless possibilities. The one God liberated him and humanity from slavery to the past. What's the most powerful source of hope in our lifetime? I know of no greater evidence of the power of hope than the state of Israel. Nothing in human history rivals the return of the Jewish people to our homeland after 2,000 years of diaspora and stubborn hopefulness. And see how this faith in the possibilities in the future translates to our daily lives. Hope keeps dreams alive. Hope for a child keeps an infertile couple exploring all the avenues despite the exhaustion of it all. Hope for a fulfilling marriage keeps husband and wives whose marriage is on the rocks stick with counseling. Hope for a cure or even remission helps a patient return for another debilitating chemotherapy treatment. Hope for family and harmony keeps parents and teenagers talking to each other. My faith comes back to me when I am feeling weak and reminds me that I can make my way through this challenge. I can do it. So can you. The worn and tattered corners of our lives can be made like new. I wear a ring on my pinky with an inscription on it that replenishes hope when I need it. It's a saying attributed in the Midrash to a simple jeweler in Jerusalem who etched it on a ring for King David to remember when he was bereft of hope. I look at it from time to time and I touch the words when I'm worried about something, and it reminds me to cling to hope with the simple reminder, Gam ze ya'avor. This too shall pass. Friends, you are a child of hope. Odlo avda tikvatenu. We have never ceased hoping. That's our people's national anthem. I am able to sustain my hope when I pause from time to time and focus not on what I lack, but what I have. I count the blessings in my life. We all have them. Some of them my blessings are in this room. My wife, who has loved me and believed in me and made me feel good about myself, despite all my faults, for over 35 years. I am blessed with loving children who are loyal to their family, who love Judaism, who are truly good people. And I'm the luckiest rabbi in the world, along with these other two rabbis, blessed to serve this community. We are all blessed. We all have things to be grateful for. Why do we forget that so quickly and focus more on what we lack than what we have? Earlier this summer, my daughter and her husband Ray brought two adorable children into the world, Ezra and Marley. Ezra was born with an old soul. He furrows his brow and looks worried from time to time. He gets this way especially when he's hungry. The worried look eventually gives way to crying, as though he just received a memo that there is no more milk in the world. That's what we all worry about. There's a teaching by Maimonides that I would summarize like this. When the world finally figures out that knowledge is the most exciting thing, what a beautiful place the world will be. Because when that happens, we won't have a scarcity problem. Do you see what Maimonides is teaching us? It's very important. He's telling us that there is plenty of so many of the important things in the world that are really important, like knowledge for all of us. We lose sight of this because we are haunted by a primordial fear, scarcity, real or imagined. And this fear causes so many of our problems. We live in a society that has venerated the individual in the pursuit of whatever makes us feel good. But what we've learned is that when we are left to pursue our every desire, our desires are unlimited and unquenchable. And that's what makes America such a bastion of loneliness. We come from a tradition that wants us to learn to constrain our appetites in order to keep good values. We come from a tradition that wants us to have faith that scarcity is not really a problem, at least for some of the most important things in life. We come from a tradition that teaches that the best blessings in life are free and we should be grateful for them. There really is enough love to go around. Be grateful for the love that blesses your life. There really is enough learning and wisdom and knowledge for everyone to luxuriate in all they want. Be grateful for the opportunities in your life to learn and grow and expand your horizons. There really is enough of many of the good things life offers, like caring and creativity and hope. All we need to do is shavat vayinafas, just stop and take a deep breath. Say a blessing for something you're grateful for and realize every once in a while, yesh li hakol, I have it all. A connection to God, which gives us strength and hope, gives us a sense of fullness, well-being, and gratitude for what we have. I believe that at its core, holiness is about learning this lesson, as that is how we live deeper and more beautiful lives. A grateful life is a good life. This I believe. A faith built on a love of life and a determined tenacity on hope and gratitude is a faith that strengthens and sustains. It is a faith of depth and meaning, prompting us to lives of loving and caring, a life in which we sense sublime, even divine purpose to our lives. Our tradition gives us teshuvah, the idea that we can return to the place of this faith in the goodness of life and the confidence that we have the strength to meet life's challenges. During this season, when we try to set things right in our lives, we are led to a place of gratitude for so many things and our hope for a sweet life. Our tradition gives us holiness we can experience. Live one beautiful Shabbat and then tell me you can't find something to be thankful for. Shabbat, when lived deeply, gives us the sense that we have enough of everything that is important, especially enough love and hope. Our tradition gives us ways to access God's presence and open us to the possibility of the deepest strength we will need. Our tradition gives us the means of obtaining Torah knowledge that can lead to learning how our ancestors hung in there and kept the faith and their hope alive. This kind of knowledge and experience also opens us up to a faith we could scarcely imagine. Isaiah said it better than anyone. Koveh Adonai machlifim koach. Those who hope in God shall renew their strength. This I believe. Our tradition reminds us that we can be like our grandparents, Abraham, hoping for a world wholly unlike the narrow world of idolatry. Jacob, wrestling with the long night of the soul, struggling with the darker side of himself and looking for the part of him that was strong and believed enough in life to continue struggling until he eventually earns the name that each and every one of us is entitled to, Israel. Leah, who transforms her bitterness into the deepest gratitude. Max Rothbart, who rose up from the ashes of the Holocaust and fell to his knees 40 years later in gratitude for the blessing of his life since liberation. These stories are inside of us. They are a part of all of us. They are our greatest inheritance. I believe we can not only learn from them, they can give us the faith we need. What we learn from them can bring us to a place of joy and love, of hope and gratitude. That, to me, is a good life.